Good afternoon and welcome to Your Health, Your Future, Your Choice. Exploring wellness from within from all angles. Slight little change from previous shows, but going forward, you're going to recognize us with this wonderful title of the show. Today, Marie and I, welcome Miss Marie. Yeah. Today's show is reading between the lines, something we're all having to do every day, every minute, every month, and this is no different. The question is, are we dumbing down? Are we dumbing ourselves down with the headlines, the 5-second blurps, the memes, and technology that's out there? It's great to get your juices flowing and get your brain engaged, but there never seems to be any follow-up or anything for you to continue with. So I love the idea that you're going to be tackling this question. But first, before we dive into that one, Marie, let's do a little bit of recapping, and maybe you can share comments that you've been receiving from previous shows and what people are saying.
All right. So it's been some good feedback.
Oh, nice.
People are feeling like they're learning things. I think that the funny part for me is some of them are actually my clients that I see on a regular basis. Even though I've told it to them in person, they're finding that all of a sudden seeing it in this format, it's sinking in and they're connecting better with the message.
Is that like a reinforcement as well?
I guess so. Okay. I guess so, because I kind of laugh and I'm going, so you're here and you don't hear it, but you see it. And I think it's just the way we process. Mm-hmm. So it's been kind of interesting. And one of the comments was in one of our earlier shows, we talked about too many supplements and how you go the natural method and you take too many at once. And somebody really had that epiphany and they realized they were taking 10, 12, 15 supplements in a day. And they still weren't feeling great. So they removed them all and started taking them one at a time, and they ended up losing most of them and now are back on one or two. So it really helped them to fine-tune. Yep. They didn't even realize the mixture of all of them was causing their fatigue, their lightheadedness, and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Another one, I made the comment about yoga and how you don't have to go do this crazy yoga. You can just start with chair yoga depending on where you're at. You know, the yoga is just movement. And it's just the space between the movements. It's not about being Gumby. Everybody sees yoga and Gumby. So I've had a lot of people actually slowing down and trying that because they refused to try it before. Because they had this mindset that yoga was Gumby. Gotcha. Versus I can go slower, I can take my time, I can learn about my body. So that's been kind of cool too. That they've heard it just a different way. I think the most profound one for me is when I talked about food being chewed or unchewed.
Okay.
Yeah, that hit a lot of people because everybody says processed or unprocessed, but processed is just one of those words that you just don't even know what it means and you get so overwhelmed when you're in front of it and everything else. So when they start thinking of it in that format, it almost grosses them out a little bit. So they're staying away from the processed foods, looking at them as already chewed up. And what's happening is they're actually listening to their bodies more. So when they're going to grab that food now, they know it's going to make them feel. So they're starting to connect more inward and listening to their inner guidance that's telling them, okay, I'm not eating it as much. Now when I go eat it, it makes me feel yucky. Mm-hmm. So it's taking them to the next level. Because the goal in all of this is that we know that we have more inner strength and power than we think we do.
Correct.
And we give it away every day to, the marketing, the social media, the medicine. And I'm not saying you shouldn't use medicine. I'm saying you need to do what you need to do first because we have such a large amount of self-healing in us already that we're not tapping into. And this is just the beginning. Just when you can start to recognize these little things, you'll start to recognize other things. And, sooner or later, as we go through more shows, we'll get into more of the hands-on and doing the work on yourself. But until you can start listening to the basics around you, you can't hear those messages on how to break up your own tissue, how to really understand what your body's doing.
Or why does your stomach hurt? Or why do you have a headache? What I've noticed in my journey in the last 2 years in having to figure out, I'm not getting better. What do I do? Being with you. In my head, even though I don't eat eat because I just love to eat. I eat basically to survive. If I'm hungry, I'm eat. Or if I've gone too long, I'll say, okay, I really should have, drink some water or something like that. What I was finding myself doing was, you have this meal and this food, and it's planned, and you do it at this time. And I found myself going, but I don't want to. And actually sitting back and going, I don't want chicken and potatoes and a vegetable. I would like some pan sauteed vegetables, and let's throw a few pieces of chicken in. I found myself being open to changing it around and not being in that marketing, you must. So I can totally identify with these people.
So it's been kind of fun just to hear the different feedbacks and how people are waking up little by little. I mean, the whole goal of this is that we become more present in our own health, so we don't need the medicine so much, because there is so much we can do for ourselves.
Well, I think the other thing that's important and interesting that you've taught me, and I'm hearing from more people now that my ears are open, is you talk about different grocery stores like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and all these different stores where everybody assumed that's just really expensive stuff.
Right.
But now more people are willing to walk in
and just see what they have.
And see what they have, think about it a little bit and go, well, I really like that, so I want to try that.
And that goes to where they weren't in certain areas before because people just wouldn't walk into them, where now they're gravitating more into different demographics because people are willing to go in.
Well, I think the other thing in going into those stores and the some of the essential oils, which were always there, but they're discussed a little more openly. We're hearing we don't need the spray in the air to asphyxiate ourselves, that there's a proper way to use the essential oils, a proper way to mix them, ones that you can and can't use, what grades you should be using, that were virtually non-existent unless you were in that
and
life.
That's what that goes back to our topic, methods or madness, because we have these beliefs that things work a certain way, but it's turning into madness. And if you look at it from the alternative perspective, it's turning into madness from the Western perspective. I mean, if we take the Western model of medicine, it's so broken down into specialties now, they can't put the body together. And people can't get the care because if it's something that's with their digestion, but it doesn't fall in the lines of the gastroenterologist, it doesn't get found. And they just get shuffled around because the gastroenterologist can't figure out that the knee being off is twisting the gut and causing them, issues. So it's gotten to the madness of we can't put the pieces together again. Natural medicine's the same way. They've gone to the point where they're doing all these blood tests that go so down deep, they don't do the regular testing that the Western model does. I mean, I recently had 2 clients that have only done alternative, and because they don't do those regular testings, there were serious things wrong with them that weren't found because they are their theories. They don't go beyond those theories. So we have to start being part of it. You look at energy medicine, again, they believe that happens a certain way and you have to talk to your spirits or your guides. I mean, we're all energy. We are the energy medicine. We are the one that can facilitate anything we need through us. And then if we need the medicine, we use that on top of it.
Correct.
So we have to start becoming more present. Nutrition has gotten to the point where every diet, again, it's a method. You have to do it this way. You have to do it that way. There's macrobiotic diets, there's keto diets, there's so many different layers of it, when all along your body knows what it needs when it needs it. I mean, right now is a great time because fall's coming. Your body wants to shift from less raw foods to more cooked foods to more. And if you're listening to that, you're not going to get those digestive upsets, but you're still stuck to that diet. Now, you don't know what it is because you're doing the diet and you're doing the exercise and you're doing what the doctor said and you're taking the probiotics, but you don't know that the season just changed.
We're forgetting what is inherently we were born with and inside us.
Right.
And for how many years have we been dumbed down? How many years have we been told, I know what's best for you? I was just going to say, and now we allow it. We have to step back.
I have my degree in exercise science, and that knee over toe thing was etched in you. Never, ever let your knee go over the toe in your squats and your lunges. I start studying some in-depth yoga I mean, you can put your knee over your toes, stretch your body this way and lift your arm up. And you can start to really open things up where the studies are showing now that knee over the toe has tightened the ligaments, has shortened the hamstring tendons. It's really caused a gridlock in the ankle because we stayed too static.
Correct.
And not understanding how the body can pivot. It's designed to move and pivot. I'm not saying you should just shove your knee over your toe. Don't do that. I'm not saying
work
that.
up to it. Please take a little time.
Exactly. But we've dumbed ourselves down. And the doctors are struggling because all their answers come in this. And when it comes outside of that, they don't even know what to do with it. I don't think they're all dead set against it. I think it's just so overwhelming for everybody involved. So if we don't start going inward, and that's what connecting inward with your body within about is really learning to sit with yourself and find out what works for you, what doesn't, what feels right, what doesn't.
That when you eat that cheese sandwich and you get a stomach ache, you might want to think about, okay, let's try something else. And if I don't get the stomach ache, and then the next day go back and try it and you get the stomach ache, that's listening to yourself. We're not talking that you're going to go into a trance and meditation. And I know I'm being sarcastic, but people have said this to me, and I have to meditate and hear what the spirits. No. You get a stomach ache if you eat XYZ, and then you eat something different the next day, and you go back the day after and you eat XYZ, and you got a stomach ache again. That's listening to your body. That's listening from within. It's not this.
And it can go even deeper than that. So let's take a Western model example.
Okay.
Someone who needs a knee replacement. There'd been many cues your body's given you long before you needed that knee replacement. I mean, I've seen people 7 years before they need it, and I say, if you start strengthening and you do this and you do that, you can avoid it. You can really open up that leg, realign the joint, and chances are, nope, can't happen. It's guaranteed. Once you have arthritis in your knee, you have to have a knee replacement. So if you learn to go inward and realize your ankle was off, your foot was off, if you change the ankle, the foot, the hip, the shoulders, and the whole gait pattern, that knee's not in the same dysfunctional pattern. So it can get some blood flow in there. It can change the dynamics. And studies are showing that. And my work has shown that over and over again. I have people aging gracefully versus breaking down as they age because we are listening and we are going more inward. So you take that knee replacement, you could have prevented it, but say you can't prevent it.
Okay.
Now you get the knee replacement. What do you do now? You do exactly what the doctor says and you go to rehab and everything else. Well, there's so much. If you start to learn about your body within, after the surgery, you can be running the energy. You can learn how to manipulate and soften your hip flexors. You can start to get your ankle to open. You can do a lot of soft tissue stuff on your work because you don't want to go to the physical therapist and have them keep jamming on it. You want to make sure that happens for you. The problem is they stay in the knee. The opposite leg's off before you even have the surgery because you've been walking so crooked.
Correct.
So those are the things you need to address because people don't go inward, so none of that gets taken care of. So then they have that incessant limp, then they need the opposite hip a few years later.
Gotcha.
And it just keeps magnifying because they don't realize they have the tools inside them to address more than. It's okay to use the medicine, but what are you doing? Because all that stuff is going to aid you and slow you down.
Yep. And it seems to me that, how would I put this? So we need to step back and look, as they say, at the whole picture. And everybody is hyper-focusing on one detail or the other, and you go to the doctor or the energy healer or whatever, and you're focusing on one detail, and then maybe that person will add their piece to it.
But what is your piece?
Right. So you're going there looking for answers. It's what we do in life for many, many things.
But the
instead
methods have crippled us so much in thinking what we have is not as powerful.
Right.
We think it has to come from a book, a technique, a professional. I mean, before we had medicine, we had to figure it out. So
Correct.
we got to have some sort of skills inside. You got to. So
Well, we have an immune system, and everybody's forgot about that.
right. But what's happening is even when you go the natural medicine route, you have to eat organic, you have to be vegan, you can't do beef, you can't do that. But nobody's looking at the muscle loss, the bone density issues and things like that. They've got this method. You have to do it this way.
And
so
only
the
this
person
will
I'm
work.
trying to get their bones to stop degrading can't do it because they're so etched in that. But if they really sat with themselves, they'd realize that steak is calling my name. Just today.
So
maybe not for
listening.
another week.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond listening. Like I said, once you start to really listen to the little things we talked about that the people had woken up to in previous shows, you start to become aware of more things around you all the time. Then you're with friends and you're talking and you start noticing things. And then if you do some of the techniques that I have on my website or in my courses and stuff, you start to really open your energy up and your body starts to talk to you. And you can lay down and you can focus inward. It can start to self-adjust. It can shift. It'll tell you where you need to rub to, move tissue. You'll know when things are going to happen before they happen. It's not a psychic thing. It's an us thing.
Well, I mean, we are perfectly made.
We are.
And unfortunately, we have ignored that fact and become imperfect in our thinking and not, like you said, realizing what perfect beings, machines, whatever we are, energy.
Right. And everything in the universe is a gift, including the medicine. But we've gotten so sidetracked of thinking the medicine is better than us. And even the natural method, and I am not a big fan of the natural medicine we're using right now because it stops the person. I mean, I had one woman that I've had several women getting ready to deliver, and because the baby was late, they didn't want to be induced because it wasn't natural. They didn't want, I had one even switch her due date because she didn't want to be induced. She got her natural person to help her tweak it enough that she could wait another week because they feel like they've failed. If they can't breastfeed, they feel like they've failed. There's these natural protocols and methods we have that if we don't succeed, you feel inferior. And
It just wasn't meant to be that time.
But it's gotten so bad. That's why I'm saying methods or madness. And ask yourself, when you're doing something, macrobiotic diets, I mean, I'm on an over 50 website right now because I am over 50. I hate to break it to anybody, but it's all about health and wellness because I'm curious what people are thinking. And the diet's on there, so all these women and men can stay cut. They're losing bone density. They're doing all kinds of things just for the sake of having that bicep line so they can look cut all the time. And the methods that are involved in that are off the hook because they don't feel whole unless they're like that because they believe that's healthy aging. And I'm a gym rat. I love to lift weights. I'm strong as can be, but there comes a point where you have to fuel your body if you're asking all those things of it.
You can't take and take and take and
you
take.
cannot because it will add up in breast cancer. It'll add up in, other different ways in your body. And you have to know that if you're not listening and you have to work so hard at it that you have to measure things and do things, you're not listening here.
And so people that are saying listening, it literally, because I'm the baby in the group here as far as knowing, I'm in kindergarten for this stuff. I graduated from nursery school. I'm in kindergarten. I got a lot of grades to go. But it's the voice within, and we've all heard it, but we've tuned it out to that's ridiculous, and it's not. It happens for a reason. And it's as simple as there'll be a day that I really want breakfast. And I want breakfast. Like I want bacon and I want pancakes. Don't deny yourself. I'm not saying be a glut. Don't eat excessively. But if that's what you are craving truly,
reason you're craving something,
then
you're missing
don't
something.
ignore it. And then at lunchtime, if your body's like, I'm fine, well, have a piece of fruit. Have a piece of fruit and be okay with it.
You ever
Don't
see a toddler eat?
Have I ever seen a toddler eat? Yeah,
Some days they eat all cheese.
Yeah.
Some days they eat all meat. Some days they eat all fruit.
Some days they have,
and
ice
mom's
cream.
freaking out because they're not getting a balanced meal, but they grow anyway. And they're healthy anyway.
Yep.
They just are listening because they don't know enough that it has to be 3 squares doing whatever.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is a trap we've fallen into.
Yeah.
The food pyramid, all those things are traps, and we've allowed ourselves to be lulled into that's better than what's in here.
And what
in
happens
here.
with the trap is if you can't succeed in the trap, you might as well not do anything. So people will start diets and it'll get so overwhelming and so frustrating that they just give it up and they just purge and they just keep eating. They just binge. And they gain more weight back because they've slowed their metabolism. There's this whole cycle. But it's sad because we put so much pressure on ourselves that we can't succeed on all levels.
Right. And the smallest achievement is exactly that. And we need to stop putting ourselves down. And it's across the board for us. But
once it becomes a knowing that this works for me and this doesn't make me feel good, it's hard to go back.
Yeah.
You can convince yourself of everything you want, but once you learn that my body will do this and my body will do that, and certain things will bother me, you just can't go back. People say to me all the time, it must be so hard with your food allergies. I mean, I was born with food allergies. I was born with all kinds of allergies. It's not hard for me, because why would I want to put myself in a situation that weakens me and makes me sick? So it's not hard for me to omit myself from it or from the food. But people look at it as I'm giving up life.
But if you never had it or could eat it, which I'm in the same boat, it's not really a loss. I mean, there's a time when you're like, oh, I'll try it.
People get very overwhelmed about not being able to go out with their friends and do A, B, and C, but their friends probably shouldn't be doing it
A, B, and C either. Exactly.
Right. And they're just not talking about how they feel the next day. Because very few people feel good after they've spent time eating a bunch of fried foods and drinks and whatever it is people are doing.
The one thing I did learn last week, I was listening to a couple of different shows, and they were talking about how eating salad or fruits before and after your meal and the fermenting and stuff. And I found that to be very interesting. I haven't done anything about it, but it was an interesting conversation that I'm going to look into.
And it's something, you hear it. If it feels right, you try it. But you don't buy into it. That's
you don't lock
point.
yourself down to it.
Try it. Does it feel right for you? Because it's in your space, so there might be some truth to it. And maybe it's only certain fruit that does it to you. You can play with it and see, but don't say, oh, no, I can't eat fruit. Because
it's not engraved in granite.
Right.
And we don't want it to be engraved in granite.
People want it to be engraved in granite.
Well, they want it to be easy so they don't have to think. And unfortunately, we have this brain here, and we're supposed to think, and we have hearts and souls, and we're supposed to feel, and we're supposed to listen.
But it all adds up. So my goal is to help you age gracefully. So how do you age gracefully? You start listening, because all those things will add up. They're going to muck you up later that you're going to need a lot of help. And do you want to be in a situation when you're aging to need a lot of assistance or to be more independent?
I want to be more independent.
And I see people, over the years getting so much stronger as they're aging versus weaker. And it just makes my heart smile that it is possible for all of us. I mean, I've gotten stronger every year. People look at me and going, I can't believe you're still getting stronger. You're getting older. And I'm like, because the more you listen, the more it just happens. You're not doing anything because you don't have to give anything up, because you just heard that that's the right thing to do.
Right. You decide for you. You decide for your body. You decide by how your body reacts or doesn't react.
Right.
So you find the answer from within.
Right. And like I said, it can start here with these small things, but then it gravitates to the point where you can do your own body work. You can create your own exercise programs. You can know when your body's off and self-correct. There's so many things. When you're going into a toxic environment, you just won't do it now. It just happens. It's not that you're this special psychic person. You're just present in a room and aware of what's happening to you, and you're making choices. Your health, your future, your choice. That's where the name comes from, because we're letting everyone else right now with the methods choose for us what is right for us, because we don't want to get involved in the choice.
And they're in doing that, dictating your health when you're the one that should be.
It is. Yeah. I had a couple people end up in the ER unexpectedly this week. And again, the lines, the waiting, the inability to be seen. This is a real thing that if we don't start looking in the mirror, you're sitting in that room 2 days waiting and hoping that your stuff isn't so critical that you needed to be expedited in there.
Correct. Well, this has been certainly a very interesting first show here, and I really do like the title, and we came right back to it, and it made a lot of sense. So going forward, we're going to continue to explore wellness from within, from all angles, from up, from bottom, from side to side, inside, outside.
And I'm hoping the more we do it, the more we'll go inward and learn about our body within. The biggest key is on my website, Knoetig, Knoetig.com. Click on the free meditation and sit and start every day asking to see what you need to see. Because if you do that and you truly mean it, you'll start getting those little epiphanies. And once you know it, it'll never go away.
Correct. You can't ignore it.
No.
And if you have any comments, we'd like to encourage everybody to participate with us. Body Within Community, that's all one word, Body Within Community at gmail.com. Any questions, concerns, comments? Obviously, we won't be giving any advice, but questions, comments, something exciting that happened to you, something that you noticed and tried from the show, we'd love to hear from you. And we will see you next time. Have a fabulous day. Thanks, Marie.
Thank you.